is no good explanation. Naturalistically speaking, we can use the historical process of investigation to conclude that quite likely maybe something supernatural happened here.
In this video, Quresh expertly proves that Jesus was not a myth using historical evidence for his claims. I will give my own thoughts at the end of the video. God bless you as you listen.
What are the sources regarding Christianity? And some of you might be even asking, Nabeel, why should I even believe Jesus is real? Why should I ever even believe that he's a man who existed? The first thing I'm going to start off by telling you is that it is incontrovertible, according to the historical principles of investigation, that a man named Jesus existed in the first century. How do we know this? We have over 40 records of Jesus' life from ancient times, describing this man who is essentially a carpenter in Palestine. He didn't have much of anything. He wasn't a centrally important figure at the time, yet we have 40 sources that refer to him. You know who the emperor was at Jesus' time? Someone shout it out. Tiberius. Good. Tiberius was the emperor of Rome at that time. Now this is a man who obviously we should have a lot written about. We can expect tons and tons of records about this man, can't we? The historical records contain Tiberius' name by 10 different individuals.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Beautiful.
10 for Tiberius, the emperor of Rome, 40 for Jesus. You can see we have excellent reason to believe that this man, Jesus of Nazareth, lived and existed in the first century. And that's why very, very few, in fact, I could probably count it on one hand, actually, I know of two, scholars who study the historical Jesus actually claim that Jesus never existed. And one of them is Bob Price, who most other scholars say is just not even possible what he says. So we can dismiss just due to the reasoning and due to the lack of scholastic support that this is actually the case. So Jesus certainly exists. Okay, what can we know about him? Well, of the scholars that study him, and keep in mind, there is an entire area of historical studies called historical Jesus studies. So we have scholars who've been studying this on all sides. These aren't all Christians by any means. Actually, the most influential ones wouldn't align themselves with Orthodox Christianity. You have people like Paula Fredrickson, Marcus Borg, Bart Ehrman. You have people along these lines who would say, like John Dominic Crossan, who would say that of Jesus we can know for a fact that he died on the cross. Now keep in mind, that's one of our 3 points that we're proving for Christianity or attempting to show to determine its reliability. Did Jesus die on the cross? The scholars who study his life, regardless of whether they're atheist, Buddhist, agnostic, Hindu, Christian, it doesn't matter. They all conclude that Jesus died on the cross. Now, if I left it there, it would be an appeal to authority, and we're trying to be academically rigorous tonight, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you some of their reasons why they believe Jesus died on the cross, but we're going to keep it brief because scholars are unanimous on this issue. By the way, it's not just them. Even Muslim scholars will argue that Jesus did die on the cross. How many of you heard of Reza Aslan's book recently, Zealots, that came out this year? A few of you? Reza Aslan's a scholar who has studied the historical Jesus. And as a Muslim, he says, yes, Islam denies Jesus' death on the cross, and I am a Muslim, but I confirm that Jesus' death on the cross is historically certain. In fact, he builds his whole book off the fact that Jesus died on the cross. So even as a Muslim, he says Jesus died on the cross. So why? Why do they say this? Well, because first off, all the evidence that we have, all the records of Jesus' life, which talk about his death, indicate that he did die. If they say anything, it says that he did die on the cross under Pontius Pilate, which is why Paula Fredrickson says, if there's anything we can know about Jesus, anything at all, it's this, that he died on the cross under Pontius Pilate. If you go away from Christian records, you go to Jewish records like Josephus, we can also see in the first century that non-Christians are saying Jesus died on the cross. We go to Gentile scholars, they are also agreeing that Jesus died on the cross. And in fact, we also have some of them saying that these people believe he is risen from the dead. We'll get to that in just a moment. So we have excellent reason to believe Jesus died on the cross because all the records point to that. Plus, if you study the historical process of crucifixion, nobody ever in the entire history of the Roman process of crucifixion, no one ever survived a full Roman crucifixion. So we have excellent reason to believe Jesus died on the cross. Did he rise from the dead? This is an important matter. And lots of historians say we cannot investigate the resurrection because that's not a historical matter. That's a supernatural matter. And you can't study supernatural matters.
Yep.
Well, that's jumping the gun just a bit. If every explanation that is naturalistic falls short and falls very short of explaining what happened, then we have reason to believe that something supernatural may have happened. If there simply is no good explanation, naturalistically speaking, we can use the historical process of investigation to conclude that quite likely maybe something supernatural happened here. So what happened when Jesus died? Shortly after his death, we take a look at what happened, and those historical scholars we've already referred to, in general, agree with three facts that are considered relatively incontrovertible. And I'm giving you what's called the minimal facts argument, if you want to look into this. It's called the minimal facts argument, primarily promoted by a man named Gary Habermas, who's written a book called The Historical Jesus. Also by his protege, Michael Licona, who's written a book called The Case for the Resurrection of Jesus. He wrote it alongside Gary Habermas. And he's also written his manifesto, a rather large book that serves well for curing insomnia. He's written that as well. Sorry, Mom. And if you want to...
Let me stop there first for a few and just chime in. If it was only what he just said enough, just now, to me that would have been more than sufficient enough to know that Jesus existed. If only the fact that we have at least minimum 40 things that have been written against him in contrast to Tiberius Caesar, which is 10. I don't even know how this argument of Jesus' existence is even an argument. But you have to help those who don't believe. But if it was only that, that would be more than enough. What I've seen is that many people that try to claim that Jesus did not exist, a lot of them have not actually done study of it. If you actually do a study of it and you don't have this what they call it, this bias that it must be the way I want, you will most likely come to the fact that Jesus existed. Let's continue in this video.
Look at a very thorough investigation of the historical method on whether or not Jesus died. I suggest you take a look at this book published by Erdman's. Michael Licona is the author. The argument runs as follows. Pretty much every scholar who studies this, at least a vast majority, if not virtually all scholars, conclude three things happened after Jesus died. Well, number one, the first one is that Jesus did die on the cross, which we just looked at. Number two, that the disciples, Jesus' disciples, all believed he had risen from the dead. So, the disciples truly believed that Jesus had risen from the dead, and according to most historical Jesus scholarship, Christianity wouldn't have gotten off the ground if it weren't for that fact.
Yeah.
Fact number three. Fact number one was Jesus died on the cross. Fact number two, the disciples truly believed he had risen from the dead. Fact number three, people who were enemies of Jesus, or not his disciples, also believed he had risen from the dead. Now, who are we talking about? We're talking specifically about two people, James, the brother of Jesus, and Paul, or Saul of Tarsus, as it were. James, the brother of Jesus, did not follow Jesus during his lifetime. We see in the book of Mark that Jesus' family comes up and says to people around Jesus that he is out of his mind, basically, that he's crazy, which is what leads Jesus to say, "Who is my mother and brother and sister?" It's those who do the will of God. So Jesus' family is not on his side. It wasn't until after the resurrection, or supposedly the resurrection, when all of a sudden the disciple James the brother of Jesus, James, becomes a leader of the Christian church. And also Saul of Tarsus. Who is this Saul guy? Saul was the student of Gamaliel, one of the chief leaders of the Jews in the time. This man was primed and groomed to be a leader of Jews, a leader of Pharisees. He was going to have all kinds of power in the temple. He already had all kinds of power because he was able to deliver people to prison. He was given special permission to hunt Christians down. Yet this man was willing to go to his death over and over and over again for something. For what? He claims it was because he has seen the risen Jesus.
Maybe I'll just add a little bit to what he has said. You see, historically, how historical evidence processed is different from how we process, say, a current scientific evidence. Historical evidence come from two things. One, eyewitnesses that were there, and two, things that were written about that situation by the people that were there. So oral eyewitnesses, oral traditions, etc. So this is how historical things are gathered. So when you hear people now say, prove that Jesus exists, we give them the historical evidence. They say, no. we want something, as if maybe they want a picture or they want a video of Jesus. Say, yeah, 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 it's me. I existed. I don't understand what they are looking for. One of the things that I will add in conclusion is the fact that after Jesus rose from the dead, men started to do miracles. This is one of the parts where I think the church has lacked, is that a lot of them stopped talking about miracles. They were ashamed to talk about miracles. They almost try to say, no, 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 don't talk about miracles. No, 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 no. You can say anything, you can be intellectual, but don't talk about miracles. What do you mean don't talk about miracles? Part of the reason Christianity got to where it was, it's not just because Jesus died and rose from the grave. That is fantastic. But because he died and rose from the grave, people started to do strange things everywhere. Peter was raising the lame, raising the dead, eyes were opening, deafness. And if you are a Christian and you are not working towards to get to that dimension, then there will be a part of your weakness that will not be correct. There will be a part of your weakness that you cannot share for the historical Jesus. If the true Jesus was alive, he's alive now, then the things that were done that he said would be done by his name will still be around now. That is why I am a man that believes in miracles and walk in miracles. I don't believe in this idea that if you want to be intellectually sound, then you should not talk about miracles. The entire world we are living in is basically a miracle. They have tried to calculate the possibility of something like this existing, and I can't even bring the number, but it's a very high number. It's a very high number. So in case maybe this is not enough for you, just go and do a little bit more research. You will come to the I'm 100% sure you'll come to say that Jesus existed. Please like this video, share, comment down below. I would love to hear your comment, and God bless you. See you in the next one.